Hello, and welcome back. You see, what's unfolding right now started innocently enough, or at least it seemed that way. Ava decided to look into Delilah after Alexis quietly suggested it might be worth digging. I've always admired the way Alexis approaches things. She's the kind of woman who can't let a loose thread go, and we've watched her chase justice through courtrooms and late-night research for years. But this time, her nudge sent Ava straight into something far bigger than either of them expected. It's like poking a hornet's nest with a stick you thought was just a branch. Suddenly, the quiet investigation has stirred up old dangers that none of us saw coming. And I have to admit, as a longtime viewer, I both love and worry about how perfectly it fits the spirit of the show. These characters have always lived on the edge of chaos. And this time, the chaos feels personal, in a way that pulls at every long-held loyalty we've built with them. Ethan's reaction when he realized what was happening hit me especially hard. The poor man looked absolutely horrified as he pieced together that old enemies from his past were now following Delilah's trail right into Port Charles. I followed Ethan's journey since he first arrived. That mix of street-smart charm and deeper vulnerability that made him so watchable even when he was running cons or chasing adventure. He's never been one to shy away from trouble, but this time the trouble has found him in a way that feels different, more threatening, more tied to the life he thought he'd left behind. Watching him swallow his pride and go to Ava for help was one of those moments that makes your stomach tighten. He has never particularly liked her. We all remember the friction between them in earlier years, the way their personalities would clash like flint on steel. Yet there he was, forced by circumstances to stand in front of the very woman he once kept at arm's length, asking for her protection. It's the kind of raw, reluctant vulnerability that soaps do so well, and I found myself nodding along thinking, yes, this is exactly what life does to you. Puts you in front of the last person you want to owe anything to. Ava, of course, being Ava, smelled opportunity the moment he walked in. She's always had that predator's instinct, hasn't she? We've seen it time and again, whether she was protecting her children, scheming her way through the art world, or turning the tables on anyone who underestimated her. That's what makes her one of the most fascinating characters we've followed all these years. She doesn't just help, she calculates. And in this case, she saw Ethan's desperation as the perfect leverage. Her condition was classic Ava. He would have to assist her in an illegal art heist if he wanted her silence about what she'd uncovered. I paused the show right there and actually laughed out loud, the way I sometimes do when the writing feels so true to who these people are. She's not asking for a small favor. She's demanding he step into her world of high-stakes risks and moral gray areas. It's the sort of deal that could ruin him, yet we know Ava well enough to understand she's not purely malicious. There's always a layer of survival in her choices, and perhaps even a twisted kind of loyalty once she decides someone is useful. Still, I couldn't help wondering, and I bet many of you did too, whether this bargain will ultimately save Ethan or drag him deeper into the very danger he's trying to escape. What really elevates this storyline for me is the way Delilah's presence at the upcoming exhibition ties everything together. It's not just about Ethan's safety anymore. Her being there threatens to blow open secrets about Port Charles's upper crust that Alexis has been chasing for what feels like forever. We've watched Alexis pursue justice against the powerful families for decades, sometimes winning, sometimes paying a terrible price, and this feels like the culmination of so many quiet investigations. The elite of our fictional town have always hidden their sins behind charity, galas, and polished reputations, and the thought that one woman's arrival could unravel all of that has me genuinely excited. It reminds me of those big reveals in the 80s and 90s when one piece of evidence would topple an entire house of cards. As someone who has cheered Alexis on through every setback, I find myself hoping she finally gets the answer she deserves, even if the cost is higher than any of us want to see. Of course, the real heart of the matter right now is the way the entire narrative is exploding around Ethan's new, almost impossible situation. He's caught between old ghosts who want him silenced, a reluctant alliance with a woman he distrusts, and the looming exhibition that could expose everything. I've been asking myself the same question I imagine many longtime viewers are asking. How much more can one man take before the weight of his past completely changes who he is? My own take, after all these years of watching the show, is that Ethan will survive not because the writers will magically rescue him, but because he's always had that core of resilience we've come to expect from the Spencer family line. Yet I also worry that this particular tangle might force him to compromise parts of himself he's fought hard to keep intact. That's the beauty and the heartbreak of General Hospital. It never lets anyone stay the same. Every choice ripples outward, touching lives we've cared about for decades. I've thought a lot about why this current arc feels so satisfying to someone like me who has invested so much time and emotion in these characters. It's because it honors the history while still pushing forward. Ava's scheme isn't random. It grows naturally out of her love for art and her willingness to bend rules when it suits her. Alexis's suggestion wasn't meddling for its own sake. It was the kind of careful, determined step we've seen her take since she first practiced law in Port Charles. And Ethan's desperation feels earned after everything he's already endured. When I sit back and reflect on the larger picture, I realize the show is doing what it has always done best, reminding us that no one in Port Charles ever truly escapes their past. The enemies Ethan thought were gone have simply been waiting for the right moment, and Delilah has become the unexpected catalyst that forces everyone to confront what they've tried to bury. There's also a deeper emotional layer here that speaks directly to us older viewers. We understand the weight of long-held secrets because we've carried a few ourselves. We know what it feels like to face someone you once clashed with and realize you need them more than you want to admit. And we recognize the quiet thrill of watching a story build toward an exhibition that could change everything, much like the way our own lives sometimes hinge on a single event that reveals truths we weren't ready to see. I find myself hoping, perhaps against the odds, that Ava will find a way to protect Ethan without destroying him in the process. I hope Alexis's pursuit of the truth about the upper echelon brings some measure of justice rather than just more pain. And most of all, I hope Ethan emerges from this new madness with his spirit intact, because we've grown to care about him the way we care about family members who occasionally drive us crazy, but whom we'd never abandon. You remember how it started. Ava, ever the opportunist with that razor-sharp instinct we've come to love and fear, took Alexis's hint and began poking into Delilah's background. None of us expected it to rip open old wounds so quickly. Ethan's face when he realized those ghosts from his younger, wilder days were now trailing Delilah straight into Port Charles, well, I felt that jolt right along with him. We've followed Ethan through enough scrapes to know he's no stranger to danger, but this time it's different. The enemies aren't just faceless threats from some distant con. They're tied to the very legacies Delilah carries with her. Whether it's hidden fortunes, long-buried documents, or artifacts that could rewrite the town's power structure, her presence has become the spark that reignites everything Ethan thought he'd buried. I paused the episode and actually said aloud to my empty living room, "Oh, honey, you're not just running anymore, you're being dragged back." What strikes me most is this new obsession taking root inside Ethan. It's not the usual adrenaline-fueled chase we've seen from him before. This feels deeper, almost haunting an unrelenting pull toward understanding Delilah's inheritance and the secrets it drags up from his own history. He can't stop turning it over in his mind, weighing every connection, every risk. I've watched characters wrestle with obsessions before, Alexis with her quests for justice, Ava with her need to control the narrative, but Ethan's version feels uniquely raw because it's forcing him into one of the most profound adjustments of his Port Charles life. He's no longer the charming drifter who could slip away when things got too heavy. Now he's anchored here, compelled to adapt, to recalibrate every relationship and every plan around this new reality. It's the kind of character evolution that rewards longtime viewers like us. We've seen him grow from reckless youth to a man trying to build something steadier, and suddenly, the past is demanding he rewrite the rules all over again. That adjustment becomes even clearer in his uneasy bargain with Ava. We all saw the reluctance in his eyes when he swallowed his pride and asked her for help. He's never been fond of her methods, Yet here he is, bound by her condition, assist in that illegal art heist or risk her exposing everything she's uncovered. Ava, true to form, spotted the leverage and seized it with the cool calculation we've admired in her for years. But now, with Ethan's obsession deepening, the stakes feel multiplied. He's not just helping her for silence. He's stepping into her world while simultaneously trying to protect Delilah's legacy from the very enemies who want it for themselves. I find myself wondering, and then answering my own question the way I always do, after so many years of watching, if this partnership will ultimately strengthen him or erode the careful boundaries he's built. My heart says it will do both, because that's how the show has always worked. No alliance comes without cost, and no obsession leaves a character unchanged. The upcoming exhibition looms over all of it like a gathering storm. Delilah's appearance there isn't merely social. It's the moment when her legacies could either shield Ethan or shatter the fragile new life he's carving out. Those old enemies circling closer aren't after him alone anymore. They sense the power in what Delilah brings, and their pursuit has turned Ethan's quiet dread into something he must confront head-on. I've been reflecting on how this mirrors real life for so many of us watching at home. We reach a certain age and realize the past doesn't fade. It waits patiently until a single new element, perhaps a stranger arriving in town, perhaps a secret inheritance brings it roaring back. Ethan's forced adjustment is painful to watch, yet strangely hopeful. He's learning, slowly and against his will, that running isn't the answer anymore. He has to integrate the past, negotiate with Ava's dangerous schemes, and somehow protect what Delilah represents without losing himself. Alexis's role in all this adds another layer I appreciate deeply. Her initial nudge wasn't meddling for its own sake. It was the same relentless search for truth we've cheered her through for decades. Now that search has entangled Ethan in ways that could finally expose the upper crust secrets she's long suspected. I don't always agree with how the writers push these characters into moral gray zones, but in this case, it feels earned. Ethan's new obsession isn't just about survival, it's about legacy, about deciding what parts of his history he's willing to claim and what he must finally lay to rest. That internal battle is what keeps me glued to the screen. Will he emerge steadier, having adjusted to a Port Charles that now includes Delilah's complicated gifts? Or will the weight of old enemies and new obsessions pull him back into the chaos he once thrived on? After all these years, I've learned to trust the show's long game. The writers understand that viewers like us, who have invested lifetimes in these families, want more than quick shocks. We want the emotional truth, the way one man's confrontation with his past ripples outward, touching Ava's calculated risks, Alexis's pursuit of justice, and the fragile balance of an entire community. Ethan's current adjustment feels like one of those pivotal chapters where everything could shift. His obsession with Delilah's legacies isn't a distraction, it's the key that unlocks who he becomes next. I find myself rooting for him not just to survive the exhibition and the enemies closing in, but to emerge with a clearer sense of self, scars and all. That's the quiet magic of General Hospital. It never lets us forget that facing the past isn't a one-time event. It's an ongoing adjustment, a new chapter that demands we grow whether we're ready or not.